Hi y'all, Kraken Latte here. Since I've been asked time and time again about my minimap, I'll cover how to use the SexyMap add-on in this video. I've already covered this in part 1 of my UI series, but according to my comments it just wasn't enough. So I'll attempt to dive a little deeper, but I promise you, this add-on is super easy to use. So, first off, if you don't already have it, you'll want to download the add-on SexyMap, shown on screen. You don't need anything else to make it work. No texture packs, no font packs, just SexyMap. Once you've got that, hop into WoW and we'll get started. Pick any character, and I'll show you how I go through this. So, I'll go through the 2 ways of doing this. First, making one from scratch, and the second, which is what I do now, copying and adjusting from another profile. Since it's important to both of these ways, let's look at how this add-on saves profiles first. SexyMap has both character-specific and a global profile option. If you do character-specific like me, it saves each profile by that character's name and server. For the record, I like to make my maps by class theme, with a touch of that character's flair. But let's focus on how to make one from scratch first. So, making one from scratch. When you first log into your character, your map is going to look like this, tiny and weird. Go to your interface, add-ons, and down to SexyMap to begin customizing. You'll see we've got some categories here. Borders, buttons, clock, coordinates, movers, ping, and zone text. Selecting SexyMap's folder, you can see we've got a few options, including the profiles like I just showed you a minute ago. Here, you'll want to pick one of the preset options you like, which will be the base of what you're working with for this character. I want to go with a druid theme in this case, so let's pick the Emerald Porter. The Borders section will change the shape and color of the minimap, but we'll do that last. Let's run through the other options first. Buttons is the first one. If you choose this, to let SexyMap handle dragging and visibility, which I recommend, it will allow you to choose what buttons will show on your minimap. The buttons are things like tracking, calendar, gears, and mail, add-ons, and so on. Simply take a moment to go through this section and turn on and off what you want to see. I don't like having any buttons on though, since I use keybinds to access things. That way my map is nice and clean. So I have all this, with the exception of dungeon and raid stuff, set to never. The clock is the next part, and it's pretty simple. You can choose where it sits on the map by using the horizontal and vertical sliders. You can change font size and choose font type. You can also choose font color, background, and border. I like to have my clock on hover, which means it only shows on mouse over. I also like to set background and border transparency to 0 to make it look less intrusive. And since I like my map on the bottom of my screen, I want the clock up at the top. Next are coordinates. If you enable this, this will show chords on the map itself. It can be adjusted the same way as your clock. I actually have mine disabled since my world map has chords for me thanks to LVUI. Now we've got movers. When enabled, this simply lets you move your quest tracking column around since the two normally would overlap. I have another add-on, Quester, that deals with that part, but the movers also lets you move the multi-person mount icons too, in case those are in the way. Ping is next. This lets you show or hide pings within the minimap itself. That's when a group member pings a location on the map. If you have it on, you can choose to have it show on the map or in your chat. I like it on the map so I can see the specific location my friends are trying to show me. Zone text is the last of this list before we move on to other things. Just like the clock on chords, you choose how you want this part to look. I don't like this box behind it, so I set background and border to 0 transparency. I also like the text as white. If I use it, that is. I actually have a weak aura I made that announces zone locations on the top of my screen, so I have zone text turned off. If you're interested in that weak aura, it's in my paste bin in the description, called Base Zone Text. Hop back up into the SexyMap folder real quick and we'll adjust a couple more things before we dig into borders. Here, you can turn on and off what you like for each part. I like to keep the map unlocked so I can move it if need be. Clamped, so I don't throw it off screen. Rotate on, so it turns with me. Turn off right-click config, which lets you instantly access the map options. And I like to turn off the north tag, which is the N for north. Those are my settings there. Then, I like to move this map down to the bottom right. Of course, you can move it wherever you want, and then scale it to your preferred size. I like to have mine in the 2.7s range or just below 3, because I'm blind as a bat and I like my minimap big. I also refer to my map a lot, an unbreakable instinct from older games, so having my minimap there and big prevents the world map spammage. Alright, now onto the fun part. Borders. This may all look like a foreign language to you, but don't worry, it's easy. First, make sure you have Hide Default Border selected. This will be checked by default. This gets rid of the Blizzard map ring. Now pick your minimap shape. There's a lot to choose from here, but I tend to stick to circles because it gets a little weird with rotate on while using other shapes. See? But if you like that, go for it. I like to use just plain old circle for a clean edge. Now with those chosen, we got the borders list down here. Don't be intimidated though, it'll make sense. Each of these are a piece of the artsy stuff on your map. The Emerald Portal preset I chose has the most options, which I picked to show you what all that looks like. Adjusting each one will be done in exactly the same way, so once you learn one, you learn them all. With the exception of the background/edge option. I don't mess with that one though. Background leaves. Let's play with those. You've got a text browser option here if you use that, but I don't, so we'll move on. This texture path portion is important if you really want to go ham on these. These numbers are specific to each piece on the preset, so say you wanted the clouds from the cloud map, you'd copy that number, name a new border up here, and then place that number in this spot. But I don't mess with that at all, so we're not going to worry about it. Layer and blend mode govern where your map piece sits in terms of foreground and background. For most pieces, I choose background so it doesn't clutter the map and I just leave the blend on normal. But feel free to play with that. Rotation is what will spin the piece around your map. In this case, I don't want my background leaves rotating, it's kind of weird, so I have it at 0. But if you do, just change the speed on the slider. It can get a bit wild. Woohoo! Static rotation does virtually the same thing, but it sets where your piece starts and stops, instead of where it's spinning. I tend to just leave it at default. There's also scale, which simply adjusts the size. I use that one a lot. And the two nudges that move that piece horizontally or vertically. The width and height sliders semi-adjust its shape. Those parts are pretty self-explanatory. Of course, we can't forget color, one of the most important pieces, right? The texture tint up at the top adjusts both color and transparency, so mess with that until you're happy with what that piece looks like. And once you've learned how to change all this, it's the exact same thing for each piece, so you're golden on this front. But what if you don't want all this junk on your map? Maybe you only want a couple things for a cleaner look. Simple. Pick the one you don't want, say this weird hard to see spinning leaf here, and delete it. If you're not sure what that one is, I find scaling it up dramatically helps identify it, so you don't delete the wrong thing by accident. Now I'm sure you're going, but Kraken, that still doesn't look like your maps. Simple. Delete more! Change the background and foreground. Change the size and color. That's all I ever mess with. I actually delete a large amount of options. Like for this druid one, watch me for a moment as I magically change some things to my liking. Look at that! That wasn't so hard. That's very similar to one of the other druid ones I have already made. I'm content with this map, so that's how you make one from scratch. You'll adjust these exact same methods using all the presets. Easy as that. Now that you've made one, let's assume you've made a couple others for your other characters. Maybe you like the one you put on the druid better, and you don't want to remake it for your new alt. It's as simple as copying that character's profile to the new one. Get on the new character, and then find the character name you want in the list. In this case, my max level druid that we just looked at, and copy it. It'll want you to reload, and then bam! Instant sexy map. Now you can leave it as is, or mess with it a bit to fine tune it to this alt's flavor. I think I want blue in this case. And there we have it. That's how you make some sexy mini-maps. Wasn't so bad, no was it? And to address one more question about this topic that I've had quite often, no, I'm not sharing my specific profiles. There's a good reason though. It would be far too confusing for you and me, as every single character that I have, which is far over 50, has their own unique profile. I very loosely base the map on class theme, but not always. So if I gave you my profiles, you'd have to wade through 50 plus character names that do not denote what their map looks like. Sorry fam, it's just better if you make your own, for all of us. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you have some neat tips or feel like I missed something on this topic, share down below. If you want to see more of me in free-form unscripted action, check me out on my gaming channel of Latte and Tea. The link for that is in the description. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you like my content. And remember, it's never too latte.